Anyway, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's really wonderful to be here with you. If you ever wondered, and if you're a thinking person, first of all, Rishus Rabbi Shochet, Mr. Shochet. If you're a thinking person, you might wonder, what does Hashem think of me? Is he happy with me? Is he proud of me? So one of the ways to know this is a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, Kol sheruach habriyos noicha heimenu, ruach hamokim noicha heimenu. Anyone who people are at ease with, you know, you talk to a person and they're not walking on eggshells with you. They're comfortable. It doesn't say, so interesting, you know, every word of Chazal is so exact. It doesn't say everyone who people like. Because sometimes we like people that are not so good. I always used to tell my kids, you know, not so good people could be a lot of fun. But that doesn't mean they're good. But the barometer that the Mishnah uses is a easygoing person. People are at ease. They're not worried that you're going to bite their head off. Then Hashem is pleased with you. That's a really good barometer. You know, today we have a lot of titles. When people go to school, like my wife is a therapist, so she's an LCSWR, and then she has a whole bunch of other letters after her name because she's an expert in syzygy, and she's an expert in EMDR, and she's an expert. So, you know, it's like a whole alphabet soup, you know. And the Gemara calls that a person that's mukhtar b'nimusin, that's crowned with titles. Do you know who the most titled person in Chumash is? The most titled person in Chumash is Noach. Eile Toldos Noach, Noach ish tzaddik tamim es Elokim es alech Noach. Oh, he has so many titles: an ish, a mensch, a tzaddik, a tamim, perfect, walking with God. But do you know what the first title of Noach is? Eile Toldos Noach, Noach. It says it twice. Eila told us Noach that he was an ish naicha. He was easygoing. So that's one of the ways to know. And by the way, that's you know, as a Rav, sometimes I have my Bal Tefillah for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, gets older and wants to retire. So I have to choose someone else. What do you look for? Of course, he should have a good voice. He should know the nusach. He should know, you know, how it goes, you know. Tshuva, tefillah, you know, he should know how to. But the next thing is, above all things, is the person should be ma'urav im habriyos. Should commingle with everyone. Should know how to get along with everyone. If you don't know how to get along with people that are like you, you're not a menches, you know, you're just a bum. The trick is to get along with those people that are not like you, and to be at ease with people. So that's one way to know if Hashem is happy with you. But that's not what I want to talk to you about. That was just, you know, couldn't not say it. What I want to talk to you about something else. Last week in the Parsha we learned about the Aseret HaDibros. And we know that we have two luchas, two commandments. All shuls, you see it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, here it is. Right. And the first luchas is about between us and Hashem. Belief in Hashem. You shouldn't worship idolatry. You shouldn't take God's name in vain. You should keep the Shabbos. And then, that belongs on the other luchas. That's between us and man. Between us and our parents. Why is it on the first luchas? It doesn't work. So the Rishonim tell us a really important reason. The Rishonim say that in our makeup, there were three partners. Father, mother, and Hashem. That, by the way, that's the reason why a person is called Adam. Not just because he comes from Adama. Not just because, like the Netziv says, that an Adam is Adameh le'elyon, could be the likeness of Hashem. But it's also because of its gematria. Aleph refers to the one and only, to the chief. And Aleph is a Vav and two Yuds. That's 26. That's the gematria of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Dam, 44, is the gematria of Aim. Of is 3 and Aim is 41. So in Adam, you have the three partners of man, Hashem, and 44 is of an Aim. Hashem says, I'm the silent partner. The way you treat your parents, that's the way I know you would treat me. That's why Kibud of Vaim is on the first luchas. Because the way we treat our parents, that's the barometer of how we treat Hashem. You are, you'll say, Kibud of Vaim, Rabbi Weiss, yeah, that you should speak with little kids. You are at the premier age of Kibud of Vaim. What do I mean? Believe it or not, sooner than later, you're going to get married. Then your responsibilities are going to shift to your husband, to your children. When you're young, do you really understand what your parents do, all the sacrifices? You really understand? No. Now, before you get a family of your own, and while you're now able to understand what your parents did, before you could even take care of yourself, what they sacrifice. It's interesting. I have a chametz guy, the same chametz guy I use for the last 30 years. His name is Tony DeNoble. And he worked in the post office. He drove a fancy car. He went on vacations to Europe. You know why? He didn't pay tuition. What our parents do for us, now you understand. And therefore, now is the expectation from you to really do this mitzvah right. I'm going to tell you a story. You know, when people live long, it's the Jewish custom, we know it from the Gemara. When people live long, the custom is to ask, Bameh harachta yomim? In what merit did you live long? We asked this to very many great Gedolim. So for example, they asked this to Rav Elia Lapyan. the Lev Eliyahu, the great Baal Mussar Reb Eli Lapian. What merit did you live long? You lived a very long life. And he said, from my bar mitzvah, I never got angry. Whoa. They asked this question to my Rebbe, Rav Moshe Feinstein. Now, I would say, what's the question? Every minute of his life he was learning, and we know that Torah is Kiem Chayenu V'Orach Yameinu. But that's not the answer he gave, because he knew we couldn't copy that. You know what answer he gave? I'll never forget his exact Yiddish words. Man ganz Leben hab ich keinmal nicht getan weit zu a Menschen. My whole life I never caused another person pain. We learn a lot from this. They asked Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, who also lived. He died within 3 months of Rav Moshe. They both lived into their 90s. They asked him, Bameh harachta yamin? And he said, I never told a lie. And boy, did he take that seriously. And he answered also, I also tried never to hurt somebody. But did he take, there's a famous story. In Europe, they didn't have, like we have, meals. Boys learned in yeshiva, and they were given what's called kest. Kest means that they were assigned a house, and they ate at that house. Somebody took care of a yeshiva bacher. If you were unlucky, you got the guy that gave you macaroni 6 times a week. If you were lucky, you got good meals. But anyway, they assigned Reb Yaakov Kamenetsky for Pesach to a certain house. He came in the house, and he looked around. There was no silver foil on the counters. It didn't look good. Well, what is he going to say? He can't for shame a family that wants to take a yeshiva bacher. So he said, do you gebrach? So they said, yes. Oi, they made a mistake. I don't gebrach. Now, he did gebrach. That was the only way he could get out of it. But then for the rest of his life, he didn't eat gebrachs. So it shouldn't be a lie. Somebody asked him why he doesn't wear, this happened in Torah Das when he was a Rosh Yeshiva in Torah Das. They asked him why he doesn't wear tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam. Now the gadol that they said, why don't you wear it like that gadol? So the gadol was 80. So he quipped, when I'm 80, I'll wear Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin too. On his 80th birthday, he started wearing Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin. Because he made that statement, he quipped. So we learn a lot from asking. So I'm going to tell you a modern day story that I hope will make you look at Kibud Vaim very differently. There's a beloved family in the Yeshiva of Staten Island, MTJ orbit, called the Edelman family. Reb Shlomo Edelman is the executive director of Yeshiva Staten Island. Rabbi Yisrael Hersh Edelman, his brother who passed away recently, is the executive director of MTJ. Getting a lot of office for that camera. That's a very special camera you're holding. It's recorded for TorahAnytime.com. It and its counterparts over 9,000 shiurim. So their mother passed away at 98. Now 98, we should all live to 98, healthy, with cognition. But that's not what's so remarkable. The year before, her sister passed away at 98. And when she passed away, another sister was 97. So 3 sisters living almost to 100. So when I went to be Menachem Ovel, I said, did anybody ask them, Bameh harach yami? I mean, I want to know what water they're drinking, you know? I mean, 98. So they said, yes, we asked, and they gave the same answer. Please tell me. Their father was a grocer during the Great Depression. In the 1930s, he had a grocery. In those days, this is before your time, I don't know, it might even be before Mrs. Sheikhat's time, but do you remember that the milk used to come in glass bottles? So milk used to come, Chalav Yisrael milk, used to come in glass bottles, in wooden crates. And their father would have a delivery 3:30 in the morning of 8 crates of these milk bottles. Their father had a bad back, and he would have to bring in the crates into the store in the refrigerator. And he would be groaning the whole day from schlepping those crates. These girls made a pact. They're your age. They were young teenagers. They made a pact that 2 of them would get up every morning at 3:30 and bring in the crates, because they couldn't do it themselves, so 2 had to get up. They did it in the snow. They did not go to camp in the summer for this reason. And they did it their entire teenage life till they got married. All of them said they believed that they lived to 98 because of that mitzvah of Kibud Vaim. That's the mitzvah of Kibud Vaim. Now, you're all good girls. Yeah, I'm nice to my parents. What am I recommending? I'm recommending to be Kibud Vaim specialists. Now, I want to tell you something about the Yetzer Hara. And this is something you're going to learn in life as the older you get. I hate borrowing a Goyish name of a book. But the Yetzer Hara doesn't sweat the small stuff. The Yetzer Hara attacks when something is big. And that's why you could have a harder time with your mother than with anybody else. Now, you might think the reason is because, well, I didn't pick my mother. I picked my friends, you know. I'm careful. My mother got thrown on me. You might think that. But I'm telling you, like, for example, I remember when I came first to Staten Island 43 years ago. And I started giving a shir. And somebody came and told me, you know, Rabbi Weiss, I haven't opened the Gemara in 20 years. Huh? I didn't say that to him, but... Because since Talmud Torah is Keneged Kulam, if Yetzer Hara is going to try to stop us, he's going to try to stop us in the big stuff. That's why marriage is not easy. Because if there's shalom between husband and wife, there's shchina. So there the Yetzer Hara pulls out all stops. So you have to know that Kibud Vaim is not easy. It's much easier to say, not now, Ma. It's much easier. Oh, come on. It's not fair. You know what a hard day I had? Taking advantage of me. That's a Yetzirah. Remember that Hashem says the way you treat your parents, that's the way I'll treat you. That's the way I know that you'll treat me. I give you a simple idea, but it's not so simple. Don't wait for your father or mother to ask something. Offer. You know, I have some time now. Could I be of any help? Wow. That's thinking about Kibud Vaim. Mrs. Sheikhel, am I allowed to give them homework? Yeah? Okay. Because I know you're probably Floridians. You hardly do anything, right? Just out in the sun. I'm going to give you homework. And you're not allowed to tell anybody that it's homework. One time when it's a rainy day, you have nothing to do anyway. You don't even have a good book. Take out a piece of fancy stationery. Buy it if you have to. And write your mother a letter. It's kind of old-fashioned. I'll write an email. I'll send a text. No. If you still know how to write, write your mother a letter. In it, write what your mother means to you. What you say, you know, I'm looking around and I see how lucky I am. And write down some things from the heart. And, you know, you end it with all my love. It's part of the homework, you know. I can guarantee you that that letter will become one of your mother's most treasured possessions. She has a drawer that she keeps her pearls in, her passport, maybe her ksuva. That letter will go in that drawer. How long does it take? When she's in a bad mood, she'll take out the letter and read it. It's not that hard to do Kibud Vaim, but it's so rewarding. Never tell your mother no or your father no. That's mamish asur. You could talk and say, you know, I don't know if I can do that, and you could. You're not chayiv and nasav and ishma on a mother, a father. You could discuss it, but you can't say no. Now, I really thought I would have till 1 o'clock. I was going to talk to you about a lot of things. But I want to at least push in. You know, if you learn this week's parasha, there's the story of the Eved Ivri who stole and he couldn't pay. They sold him for 6 years. And it's a special halach in the Torah that if he's married, they could give him a shifcha kananis, and he has more avodim, and that goes to the one that bought him. If after 6 years he says, "Ahavti es adoini ves ishti ves bonai," I love it here, I want to stay. Now we don't want him to stay. Jews are only supposed to have one master, Hashem. But if he chooses to stay, so we take him to the doorpost, we take like a drill, and we make a hole in his ear. V'rotza adonov, v'rotza es oznoi b'martzeya. And then v'avodei loylam, then he stays in Eved until Yovel. Why? Because Oizen Sheshama B'Har Sinai, Kili B'nei Yisrael Avodim, that we're supposed to be an Eved to Hashem, and he becomes an Eved, to a human being, his ear should be pierced. Let me ask you something. It sounds like piercing an ear is a pretty big punishment. Yet we take girls that are 1 year old to the jewelry shop, and we pierce their ears. I have to tell you that I and my first Rebbetzin Aleh Shalom found it barbaric, and we refused to do it. Our children, our 4 daughters were not very happy to wear clip-ons. What happened? Hashem has his ways. What happened? I had a daughter that needed a surgery. She was a young girl. It wasn't very serious. It was a surgery. And I'm standing with her when she's lying on the stretcher right before the OR. And I said to Devorah, it's going to be okay. What can I do for you to cheer you up? So she looked me in the eyes and said, let me pierce my ears. Boom. When I did it for her, I had to do it for all the other kids. So they all got pierced ears. But seriously, what's the piercing of the ear? If the Torah says that's what we do to a slave to punish him, what are we doing? So listen carefully. The Gemara asks, why are our fingers come to a point? They all come to a point. Ki yasedos. So the Gemara says, so that if you hear Loshon Hora, you should be able to put your finger in your ear and not listen. Then the Gemara says, why do we have the lobe of the ear? This thing has no use. So the Gemara says that if you hear Loshon Hora, you should go like this and not listen. Now, I have to tell you, it doesn't work. You could all try it. While I'm talking, if you go like this, it just magnifies my voice. It doesn't work. What's am I talking about? By the way, this doesn't work either. I still hear you. It doesn't work. Pshat in the Gemara is that Loshon Hora is so bad. You know, when I grew up, we used to sing a song in elementary school. Loshon Hora lamed hey, go to Gehenim the easy way. You never heard that? Huh? It finally made it to Florida. Loshon Hora lamed hey, go to Gehenim the easy way. So anyway, Hashem made 2 parts of our body, on our 10 fingers and on our 2 ears, to remind us not to listen to Loshon Hora. I believe that since the Gemara says that 10 measures of talk came down to the world, 9 were taken to women, given to women. Women talk. You know, I used to give every Thursday for many years, I used to give an assembly in Or Yitzchak by the Wallerstein family, and then I gave a class, a seminary class in Mechon Beis Yaakov. When I came into the assembly, the boys were sitting there, all quiet. When I came in by the girls, there were about 80 girls, until I started speaking, I'm not making fun. Girls talk. Girls talk. Oh, but if you talking is what we call 20,000 volts. It's dangerous. You have to know how to talk. You know, the Chavetz Chaim says that tzaras came from Loshon Hora. Metzora is motzi ra, one who says bad. So Chavetz Chaim says today when we don't have tzaras, what's the punishment? So he says metzora is chashuv kameis, and an ani is chashuv kameis. It's considered like dead. He says instead of tzaras, poverty haunts people that speak Lashon Hara. Just one thing. You know, there's a great story that the Chavetz Chaim says that a man went up to Shemayim. We'll call him Shmerel. He died at the age of 87. And he goes up to the heavenly court and he's going to be judged. So they tell him, judgment is pretty easy over here. Every time you do a mitzvah, you create a white malach. Every time you do an aveira, you create a black malach. We'll just count the malachim. If there's more white malachim, then yay. If there's more black malachim, I don't want to tell you what happens. There's a trap door. You know? There's a chute that goes straight into the fire. So he says, here we look at the good first, and let's see. So he lived till 87. He went to davening. He put on tefillin. A lot of white malachim came into the courtroom, and he's feeling it. Then all of a sudden, it says, let's see the other side. And thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon millions of black malachim. Oh, he didn't need to be an accountant to see that he's cooked. And every time he yelled at his wife, every time he didn't learn Torah, every time he said brachas without kavanah, all of a sudden this huge white malach comes into the court, gives the Rabbeinu Shalom a telegram. I'm, of course, just dramatizing this. Hashem knows everything. But that's the way the Chavetz Chaim told the story. And Hashem opens the telegram, and he turns to all the black malachim. Dismissed! Shmerel is smiling again. He goes over to the Rabbeinu Shalom. He said, Rabbeinu Shalom, I'm not complaining anything. But could you tell me what that big white guy said? I mean, what's that all about? He says, in this courtroom, we do things mida keneged mida. That white malach told me that during your life, you didn't listen to bad about other people. Whenever somebody wants to say, you want to hear what happened in shul? You were in shul? You know what? I have my own problems. Can I tell you? Can I tell you what's going on? You know something? I don't like to listen to bad. I don't want people to listen to bad about me. And therefore, since you never listen to bad about other people, we refuse to listen to bad about you. You know, in Yerushalmi Peah, it says that there are three, we all know the three big sins. Avodah zarah, gilui arayos, shvichas damim. Idolatry, immorality, and bloodshed. But it says, Loshon Hora keneged kulam. Most people speak Loshon Hora. If you don't want to speak Loshon Hora, you really, now is the age to really get used to it. To see danger at every... You went to camp? How are the counselors this year? No! Oh, so you have that new teacher? Is she good? No! Sitting by the Shabbos table. So, had any problems with friends this week? No! You're sitting with your friends. You know, Suri called, she wanted to get together, but you know what a drag. No! So I hear this new restaurant open. Yeah, how's the food? Are they nice? No! It's Loshon Hora it's not easy. Somebody once complained to me, if I don't talk Loshon Hora, nobody's going to want to talk to me. Chofetz Chaim says, big people talk about ideas. Medium people speak about things. Small people talk about people. You can't talk about people. What do we have, 2 minutes left? Yeah? Sure it's the right time? Yeah? So then I'll tell you one more thing. In Kriya Shema, we talk about the big three. Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuza. You don't have the mitzvah d'oraisa. You learn Torah. You also learn Torah in your mother's womb. You learn Torah, what you need. Mussar you have to learn. Your halachas you have to know. But you don't have the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. You don't have the mitzvah of Tefillin. Nah. But you do have the mitzvah of Mezuza. She'll say, Mezuza, thanks. If you train yourself to use the Mezuza right, it's a game changer. I mean, the Mezuza is important. What does it say after Saftam Mezuzah Beisech V'Shirecha? L'man yirbu yameichem v'mei v'neichem. You and your children will live long. That's a pretty big reward. Kissing the Mezuza is there was many years way before you were born. And again, maybe before your moros were born. There was a great tragedy in Eretz Yisrael. There was a big school, an academy. I think it was called Malot. And the terrorists attacked and killed 17 children. At that time, the Lubavitcher Rebbe sent a letter to the school and asked them if they could check their mezuzahs. It was a huge campus. They checked the mezuzahs and found 17 puzzle mezuzahs. At that time, the Lubavitcher Rebbe made a huge campaign about mezuzah awareness. And although I'm not a Lubavitcher, but I learned from everybody. And he talked about a custom that really resonated with me. He said, one time a day, hold your hand to the mezuzah 10 seconds, one time a day, and think, Hashem is going in the room that I'm going into. Now, by the way, 10 seconds becomes a very long time. It's a training that the mezuzah is to remind us that Hashem is in the room watching us. It says Shakai, Shemer Dalsis Yisrael. So everybody learns it means that Hashem protects us, which is true. But it also means that Shemer Dalsis, he's watching us. He's watching what we do. Do they still have Parker pens? You know what a Parker pen is? Ha! That Mrs. Sheikhet knows. Wow, no more Parker pens. The Parker pen, I don't have it either. I only use good pens. They write easy. But the Parker pen never said on it, in big letters, Parker. It had a distinctive arrow over here that everybody knew it was Parker. You didn't have to see the words Parker. You were conditioned. You see the mezuzah, you have to be conditioned that Hashem is in the room. Yeah, I remember Rav Wallerstein, Zech Tzadik L'Vracha, Susi Aleinu, quoted me on this at an Aguda convention. I was hit by one of his conventions. It was in a Marriott, I remember. I remember it was a Marriott because they were advertised heavenly beds. And I was speaking the hardest time. I was speaking at Shalashudas without a mic. There were 1,000 people there. And I asked him, this is such a beautiful Shabbos. What's missing this Shabbos? And I saw people thinking, did they have chrein? Did they have salt shakers? And I said, we're in a Goyish hotel, and the whole Shabbos we didn't see a mezuzah. Who missed the mezuzah? Most people, I saw the wood was burning. I didn't miss a mezuzah. Make mezuzah part of your life. And I'll conclude. I think the clock is a little bit off. I'll conclude. It's such an old clock. If it was an atomic clock, that would be different. But I'll conclude with a story that Ramila told about Mezuza. There was a married couple. The wife told her husband, we're always late for every wedding. My best friend is making a wedding. She asked me to come early so that I could help her gather the family for pictures. Please, I want to leave at 5. Please come home. Anyway, she's fully dressed. 5, 5:15, 5:30. This is before cell phones, 5:30. Steam is coming out of her ears. Finally, 20 to 6, she hears the door downstairs. She's going to let him have it. She's upstairs in the bedroom, all dressed. And she's coming down so upset, and she passes the bedroom mezuzah. Well, even Hashem's angry at him. And she passes the hall mezuzah. Passes the dining room mezuzah. She trained herself with mezuzah awareness. By the time she got to the front door, she passed 5 mezuzahs. She said, okay, you'll explain to me later. Let's just get ready and let's just go. So remember, talked about Kibud Vaim. And if you don't do your homework, I'm going to know. And we talked about Loshon Hora. Make the earrings mean something. We talked about Mezuza. It's been a pleasure. Have a wonderful Shabbos.